All right, we're here at the Entrepreneur House with Entra, Melio. We have some amazing entrepreneurs here. We're going to be talking about content. We have some business owners, and we're going to be talking about how businesses can leverage content, social media, and use it for marketing to gain customers, users, all of that. We have three awesome entrepreneurs here. We have Michael, Ryan, Kyle. I'll let them all introduce themselves. We can start with Michael first. Share a little bit about who you are, your company, and everything.
For sure. What's good, everybody? My name is Michael Second. I am the founder of Our Future. We are a short-form video media company based primarily through TikTok content, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and we're Gen Z's #1 source of business on social media. So we create some of the most digestible startup stories, business stories, marketing stories that you can find on these platforms. We also have a consultancy where we help Fortune 500 brands bring their thought leadership and podcast content to short-form platforms. So super excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity, Mike.
For sure. Ryan, what's up?
What's going on? Ryan Solomon, but most people just know me as Sully. I do brand partnerships at Workweek, which is a B2B media company where we leverage about 20 different industry-specific creators that all have newsletters and podcasts. We've grown to about a 60-person team in the past year. I do brand partnerships there. Then as well, I do UGC on TikTok for Entra and a few other brands as well. Then also leveraging out a new agency. So that's how it works.
Awesome. I'm Kyle. I run a VR investment and gaming media company, and we create content for all different types of VR games, leveraging to create downloads for those games. In addition to that, we invest in early stage VR games.
How can business owners do it themselves? How can they get started themselves with this and be consistent from the get-go?
Well, I mean, everyone's got a phone, right? So it's really Hollywood in your hand. There are people getting millions, tens of millions of views, literally preparing Subway sandwiches on TikTok. There are people working at Cold Stone behind the counter, right? Like, tell the story of your business while you're preparing food. Like, tell the story of your business while you're like, this is how we get open in the mornings. Like, this is how we restock our shelves. And then maybe some interesting tidbits as well. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, like, what happens when someone like moves a shirt? And like, I don't know. I mean, there's just cool tidbits from behind the scenes that I think a lot of these founders and business owners can be sharing. And if you just add some good hypervisual content, whether it's kind of first person view or, you know, just some generally good aesthetics, you can do voiceover. And a lot of these business owners, I think some of them are probably like scared to put their face in the content, and you don't need to. You can be behind the camera and capturing, you know, the outside environment. Right. So the barrier to entry, the barrier to getting started is a lot lower than people think. The hardest part is just getting started. And I think accountability is hard to constantly be making a video a day, but that's what these platforms demand. So one strategy that I use in my business is I create all my content 2 weeks ahead, and I batch record, and then I'm sitting on a kind of armory of video assets at any given point.
Right.
So
how many videos do you do at a time?
I film 15 to 20 videos at a time. So I'm set up for.
Do you change shirts and stuff, or what? What do you do? You just rock the same shirt? Yeah.
No, I mean I have the classic.
And you do a lot of voiceovers and stuff, and then you have your branding in the.
It's the hoodie, man.
Yeah. It's also how long does that take you to do, right? Like when you block that out, obviously you have a system goes in your process, but how long does that take you to do?
To actually sit down and film the videos, probably like an hour, but in terms of writing the videos, it takes a little bit longer. But if you like maybe take a few hours on Sunday to write video topics, brainstorm, right? Yeah. Come up with a laundry list and then shoot all that content in like one day. And then you can find an editor online really easily. You know, Upwork is a fantastic platform to find a video editor quickly. And the market right now is just so short form video centric that these editors have all the skill sets that you need. Like a TikTok video editor now is like a pretty big job title on these platforms. So access to talent is not an issue. If you just want that extra pizzazz, you can also find people to post the content for you. However, you should make sure that the person posting your content is based in the United States, because from kind of like what I've heard and what I've experienced, the content, where it is posted is where the first audience is exposed to. So you want to be in the US.
We had some problems with that too, because we had a creator in Europe that started, and then our whole algorithm was messed up for a little bit. Yeah.
And your stuff is really polished though, right? So like if you haven't seen Our Future, like check it out. His stuff is super, super polished. For a lot of these business owners, you don't need it to be super polished. You can literally actually for coming with content ideas, I saw this grid that I want to actually start using where at the top you put like content bucket ideas. So if we're doing Entra, we'd be like startups, tech, business, entrepreneur, all these different content buckets. And on the other side, you have like questions / hooks. It'd be like top five, or it'd be like biggest myths, or like whatever these different hooks are. And then you just go across the grid and be like, all right, top 5 CEOs. Great. Yeah. That's a video. Right. Which I thought was a really good thing. And now you just have a huge grid of a bunch of different content ideas. And then the other thing I was going to add too is that whenever you're talking about who does Catch an Ice Cream, what is it? Dylan
LeMay.
Yeah. Right. So Dylan does the like ice cream, right? I think what's really interesting is people follow people.
Yeah.
Right. So like having actual personality, like I think everyone here has that one like restaurant or bar they've been to where they know the guy there. Like they make your sandwich and you're just always hyped to see them. I think that's very true with just all of content and TikTok, and especially with business. Like whenever you do, like I want to go to that place to see Dylan. I don't care.
I want to just meet him.
Yeah, there's a million ice cream shops. Like that's the thing. So I think with whatever your business is, like everyone, and also for myself, like I've had so many people hit me up like, I'll DM somebody on Twitter and people like, oh dude, you're on Entra's TikTok. Like you're that guy.
For sure.
Which is really cool. So I think having that, and even like for you too, like I know at the event you said somebody walked up to you as well. Like I think there's a lot of stuff that has so much value, just even knowing your face and recognizing you, and then they have like some form of like affinity towards you before they even walk in the door.
100%. I want to get into some paid media versus organic. We talked a lot about organic stuff so far, but there's a lot of businesses out there that leverage paid media as well. Like we've run some ads, we've tested out some ads, and what we've done is we've used the free platforms and the free reach to find out what works. Right? We experiment for free. When a video hits and we see, bump in downloads or whatever, bump in revenue, it's like, well, that video did well. Now let's put some money behind it because we know now we just need to get this out there and it will work. Right? So how have you guys, I know you work with a lot of companies, you've worked with a lot of brands and stuff too, and you're more doing it for your own company. Yeah. But how have you guys seen, like how have you guys leveraged paid, or how have you seen other companies and business owners doing that?
Well, I think that what's awesome is you can be creating this content for your business whilst also developing paid content assets.
Right.
So you're making these videos for organic platforms. Maybe you get a nice organic hit and get a ton of viewership. And if you do, then like you were saying, it's probably going to perform well on programmatic. So a lot of the highest performing ad assets on paid platforms like Facebook and Instagram are TikToks right now. Yeah. So, pick the best one that you're creating about your business that really captures the magic of it, and then throw some spend behind it like you were talking about. So you're really working towards your goal at the same time, right? You don't need to have a separate strategy. I think that's what a lot of founders don't understand is they don't need to have a separate strategy from organic and paid. These days they're fusing together and it's just really nice. It's like you're constantly being able to, go for both avenues.
And speaking on that point, because I think it's really interesting. Like when you're a business, right, and you're not posting any content, then you're not driving any traffic from content, right? Whether it's downloads, sales, in-person purchases, whatever. But the second you start posting content, your baseline's going to increase. And for us, that's our whole thing. You start posting, and even if it's 100 views, maybe you get one download, one person comes into your store. So it's all about increasing your baseline and then pairing that with influencer paid posts, sponsoring your posts, extending the reach. So I think both of those strategies are really important. Like you said, they fuse together.
And I was gonna say, like working with influencers is interesting. I think there's the majority of creators on TikTok that aren't, that's what I'm trying to say. Like you don't need something that has 500,000 followers. You don't need something that's 1 million followers to promote your product. I see a huge opportunity with like smaller creators that have like 10 to like 50K because a lot of them don't have any brand deals. Right. Or if they do, they're not making their full income off of TikTok. So if you say, hey, I'll give you $100 to make a video, they'll be like, sure. Deal. Right. And then along the same thing goes with that too. So 10 or 20 creators all for $100. It's a small little campaign. And then whichever one, you can put ads behind whichever ones do well from those creators. Exactly. Which is huge. Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of the most interesting things I've seen lately in content, and especially for consumer businesses, people hiring UGC creators, like small micro influencers. And really, like you commission like 20 videos from 20 people or 20 videos each from 20 people, boom, you're sitting on a ton of assets once that's all created. And then these platforms don't punish you for posting a ton, right? Like nobody's gonna see it, like no one's gonna, it's not like back in the day, like Instagram, like you don't wanna, you know, throw up a bunch of stuff because people will unfollow you. That's just not the case for short form video. So it's absolutely insane. There are companies that offer services wherein you can hire a bunch of kids to make a TikTok about your business or your customers. Ask them, ask your customers to, if like you see them using their phones and stuff, like maybe you're not a social media centric individual, but you can outsource that to your customers. Like how cool would that be?
Right.
To that point, I also think like, I think everyone, especially if you're like a retail business or like mom and pop shop or whatever it is, like I think everyone just knows a high school kid that has a phone. Kind of thing. Like your nephew or like whoever. Like there's always somebody that can definitely film.
Internships.
Yes. Internships or like whatever that be. There's just an opportunity there.
100%.
So I think like people should definitely leverage that.
Yeah.
What's also interesting that I've seen, right, is like say you own a spa, right, in downtown, you own a spa. You could go on TikTok and find people that make reviews of spas or make content about health and wellness and just offer them a free pass
100%.
and say, hey, make a video instead. And that's still, you're getting that same reach, but it's free because a lot of these businesses say, oh, we don't have money for marketing. Well, TikTok and creating content, it's free, and there are free ways to leverage it, or exchange of services, right, whatever it is. So I think that's also really important, and it goes back to a lot of these businesses aren't even really trying to make content, or they're not really trying to leverage their online presence, and because they don't understand it. Where I think it's a lot easier than a lot of people think.
They don't understand it. I think a lot of them, they try it, but they don't do it right, and they don't do it the new way. They do it just like what the local marketing agency like said, hey, SEO, pay for SEO, and then we'll do a nice commercial and then run Facebook ads. Well, like that could work, but you got to put a ton of money into it, and you're not going to get the same virality potential that you could doing just literally content from your phone yourself, if done the right way, telling your story and everything. But to the point that you made, partnering with other creators that are already doing it, the college students, okay, if you're a small business in Miami, right, and go to right, go to University of Miami, grab, anyone at the college that has a decent following on social with their friends and be like, hey, come, bring your friends. I'll give you, free pizza, whatever. Take stories, help me promote this. Or, hey, when you're doing a sorority party or a fraternity party, let me come and bring the pizza to it, or let me supply this, and then just post about it. Just tag us, have all the people in your sorority, fraternity, whatever, tag us in it. And then that's going to go around, right? And as people are talking, around a college campus, because things move fast, and if something's cool, everyone's going to want to do it, right? And if you are doing something, everyone else is going to want, and if the cool kids are doing something, everyone's going to want to do that.
Yeah, give the cool kids like free sandwiches,
Right.
Like honestly, when I'm having this conversation, I'm just thinking about like Antonio's Pizzeria, or like a deli or some shit. Right. That's just what I have in my head. But there's definitely other businesses where you can give out free product. I think find influencers like in your local area as well. Like these days, magazines aren't curating culture like people are. So it's like find the people who are essentially establishing the very fabric of the city your business exists in, and give them free product and make them a part of your ecosystem and make them a part of your life.
And to that point, the one thing you touched on earlier was that like 40% of Gen Z is searching on TikTok. So with it being in your area, what you could do is, like, let's say for the spa example, right? Best spas in Austin, Texas. Boom. See who's posting about it already. Now you have all your influencers right there. Or best things to do in Austin. Boom. All right. Now you have 20 creators. You can also even filter by their following too on that search, which is huge. That's like that's a relatively newer feature. That is a huge play. It makes it so easy to find these creators instead of just like hoping that you see one in your FYP.
What also to that point, I think a lot of businesses have been burned by marketing companies in the past.
Totally.
Similar to what you were saying.
100%.
And at the same time, you tell a business, hey, if you spend $5,000, we'll make you $10,000. Yes, of course they're going to do that. And content, it's more of a gamble, it's more of a risk, but your risk versus reward is a lot higher. And so what I think a lot of these businesses need to understand is you have to try. right? And if you're not willing to invest $1,000 to try to make content, then what's going on here, guys? Like that's the first thing you got to address. You know what I mean? Like you have to be willing to invest in the content.
For sure. But there's also such a long tail with content. Like if you have a YouTube video up, like that could be making you bread and money for 10 years.
Exactly.
Like literally, if you have a good clip and if you have if you film a good TikTok and it hits, you could run ads on that TikTok forever. As long as it's still like converting, like you can keep that moving for like content. If done correctly, I've seen companies running the same ad for like a year.
Yeah.
And they're still making bread on it.
You could also repost organically as well.
100%.
And the best ads, they're always running. They're never, you don't take down the best ad because then you lose a lot of things associated to that ad. So I think it's important. But I mean, even getting back to the conversation about businesses trying paid, if you don't understand how ads work, I wouldn't mess with it. I don't think it makes sense. And I also don't think it makes sense to invest a lot into an ad agency in this time period. I think it makes way more sense to invest in creators to create content for your business, or just start creating content yourself. But maybe people are like, oh, I can't create content myself. That's still okay. That's valid. But you can, again, to all these points, there's so many ways that you can still create content, leverage content, or get content without having to be the creator. You know,
yeah. And I think Michael said earlier too, like the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, there's so many accounts that like no one's face is on it, right? It's just like them going through stuff or filming things. And then like, 6 months after the page is already like viral, they'll like finally like show who it is. You know what I mean?
I mean, all of our accounts are faceless.
Yeah.
And we do thousands of dollars a day and a lot of these accounts, right?
Right.
And it's all faceless. But one thing that we did, and I think that this could make sense for a lot of small businesses, is we found creators that were already big in the space, and then we paid them to run our account. So then you're associating that voice, right? The thing is, people know, you think about like your account, people know your voice. And so that's the credibility aspect that, I'm not going to go with that word. But the point that I'm making is that like people will recognize that and then they'll associate that with your brand.
For sure.
And then your account will grow because of that. So you don't have to go and try to create that content on your own. Partner with a creator saying, hey,
Bingo.
I'm going to, and then share in the revenue, right? There's so many other models here. You don't have to just pay them a retainer. You don't have to pay them to make videos. Share revenue share with them on your product or your business. I think something on all of this, right, that's really important is there's podcasts, there's newsletters, there's TikTok, there's YouTube. Start with one, right? You don't have to try to get on all these platforms at once, right? Because you chase 2 rabbits, you get none. So it's really important that you pick one, and maybe you're really good at writing. So you're going to stick to newsletters. Then you can create content like you do, where it's a video over talking about what you spoke about in that newsletter, right? So there's so many ways to expand on your content journey, but it's like focusing on one. And that's how, I got started. That's how our team got started, is we were focusing on TikTok. They said, okay, TikTok's doing good. Let's expand into Reels. And we're still expanding because we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, focusing on all of these different points of contact, right? So it's really, really important to focus on what makes sense for you.
Right.
You can really repurpose this content. Like a TikTok can be a tweet. A TikTok can be a LinkedIn post.
Exactly.
A TikTok is obviously going in its own form on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Like it's all a story. It's just about how it's packaged. And that same story is gonna, if it's a good story, is capable of getting seen by a lot of people on all of these different social media platforms. But I agree with you, KJ. Start with kind of like one. I mean, I just think short form video is the best place to start because you do have 3 platforms that are just hungry for content. But as you kind of systemize and maybe you find that minimum viable kind of content product market fit, from there, think about how you can bring your stories into more channels.
And something that is related to that, right? And we talked about the podcast thing. And it's also, so say your conversation is, well, I don't know what kind of content to create. All you really have to do is create a one-pager about yourself, about your business, and reach out to podcasts to try to get on. And then what you do is you film these, right? Or they'll get filmed, recorded, whatever it is. You hire an editor off Fiverr or whatever it is. We're talking $5 to $10 a video. That can all then get chopped up for content distribution on other platforms. And I think what's also interesting about podcasts, to your point, saying maybe your podcast doesn't get more than 100 views. I've had people that I've been on the phone with that had said, yeah, you brought up this and this point from this podcast. And I'm like, no, I mean, you can't, that podcast,
right.
you can find it if you
Yeah.
Google my name, but that's the only way.
Right.
So
Right.
what are people doing if they're going to meet with you? They're going to Google, who is this guy, right?
100%.
What kind of value does he have to bring for the table here? And how can you do that? By podcast. That's why all of these big influencers that I'm not going to mention, their whole strategy is getting on as many podcasts as possible, chopping up that content, and mass distribution, 60 to 70 videos a day on hundreds of channels. So that's the strategy, but dumb that down, make it really simple for you.
As a final like piece of advice, or if there's something that you guys wish you knew when you were starting out as it relates to being a business owner, creating content, or if you had no money, right, and you were literally, someone threw you in Miami right now, no connections, but you had like a business and you needed to get customers and stuff, how would you approach that? What would you do? Or what would be your advice for someone doing that?
So my advice to business owners who want to start creating content is to kind of experiment relentlessly, but it doesn't even need to command that much of your energy. Like I said, if you just put aside an hour a day, 30 minutes a day to brainstorm content, to make content, just make it a part of your life. And it doesn't need to be a huge commitment. Really, just get it going, program it. It's essential. You have to do it. You know, people are concerned about ROI and will this view convert to $1? It's like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or you know, excuse my French. You're good, bro. It's like, no, screw that. Like, you have to do this. The world's attention is on social media. It's how businesses are growing, and it's how they're doing marketing more cheap and more effectively than kind of any marketing scheme that we've seen in history. So get started, process it. I think once you find product market fit, it's just like your business, right? 100%. Your tuna sub, bro. Like that shit slaps, and like that, like that got you your bit. That got you to like where your deli's at. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah. So it's like you you really just have to, you know, do it, create, and once you find something that works, once you find a format that works, now process it. You can make the content start to work for you. Right. You know what I mean? Like now I can batch record, like for me in my business, like I batch record 2 weeks ahead. Like I'm only sitting in front of the camera once every 2 weeks, and I'm plastered all over these platforms every day. You know what I mean? So experiment, be creative, and then you can process, you can be processed. You're gonna do the hard creative work up front. You're uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone, because it'll start to work for you. The system will start to work for you once you just get familiar with it.
Exactly.
Process.
100%.
I'd say personality. Leverage it. Like people, like I said earlier, people follow people, not institutions. They don't care. Like they want to go in, they want to see the guy they saw on TikTok. They want to see Tejas, they want to see Dylan, and all these other creators. Like for you or whatever your business is, they hopefully want to work with you. That also gives you a face, and also hopefully builds a better actual relationship to. Like when they come in, they actually want to see you, and it builds a better actual one-on-one relationship with whoever you're talking to.
Right.
And so I'm going to alter the question a little bit. Okay.
Go for it.
Because having no money, I think you need to have a little bit of money. Right?
So no money's a little bit of a stretch.
Here's how I do it. So if I own a spa in Miami and I have a couple $100, I'm going to go on TikTok and I'm going to search for people, whether they're making health and wellness content, whatever it is. And I'm going to find someone that lives in Miami. And I'm going to say, hey, you're going to come into my shop, my spa. I'm going to give you the full package, whatever it is. You're going to make a video about
Record
this.
the experience.
And then at the end of your video, you're going to say, whoever shows me this TikTok, whoever shows the owner of this business this TikTok gets a free visit or gets 50% off, whatever it is.
Damn.
And that is how I would blow up my spa in 24 to 72 hours.
I mean, you can do that with any
business.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
the greatest part about content is it literally doesn't cost that much money. But let's be real here.
we open up
You
a
got to
spa?
spend money to make money.
Should we open up a spa in Miami?
Maybe we should.
Yo.
Maybe we should.
We have an entrepreneur
I like
house.
massage.
Seems like a pretty good business.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, appreciate your time, and this was great.